Welcome back. Today's story filled with drama and unexpected turns. Hit like, subscribe, and let's jump in.
It was a cold and blustery autumn night with big snowflakes swirling around, making my best friend Adam Ross drive cautiously down the empty Willow Street. We were heading to my house in a rented Ford Transit van. The rough weather had delayed us, but I wasn't bothered. This miserable day couldn't possibly get any worse. My house was dark, as expected, but a black Audi A6, blanketed in fresh snow, was parked on the driveway, just as I had anticipated. Had I not fixed the lock in my garage, the BMW would have been hidden inside there. Adam parked the van on the street so the BMW would have a free way out. Adam asked me, "Are you okay?" "I am okay." Adam kept talking. "So far, it seems to be exactly as you feared. Do you still want to go on as you've planned?" "Yes, I do." I think Adam was a bit unsure about me because he asked, Okay. I'm with you, but stay cool. For heaven's sake, don't go too far." "No, I'll only do what I have to do." We went to the house. I unlocked and opened the front door, and we went in. Adam took up his digital camera. I waited while he made it ready, and then he followed me to the master bedroom. No reaction from the room when I slowly opened the door. Then I switched on the light and rushed to the bed, dragged off the comforter, and just as expected, we saw two naked people sleeping there. One of them was my common-law wife, Emma Davis, and the other was Nathan Carter, an accountant working with her and usually known by his nickname, Morgan the Creep. Emma began screaming when I dragged Morgan off the bed, hit him hard several times in his belly with my right fist before giving him a hard kick between his legs so he fell to the floor with a hard kick to his backside. I ordered him to rise up from the floor. When he was up, I dragged him to the front door, where a new hard kick to his naked backside sent him flying into the snow. Adam took pictures as fast as the flash on the camera allowed him to do. Back in the bedroom, I shouted to Emma, "The damn creep out there needs his clothes." She screamed, "Oh my God, did you throw him out naked in a snowstorm?" "Shut up and don't blame me. I didn't strip him. Get his damn clothes out of my house." She collected his clothes and left the bedroom. I think she put on a coat and her boots in the hall before she went out to him. A few minutes later, we heard him drive away. When Emma was back in the house, I told her that I didn't want any excuses or explanations because the only thing that remained for her to do in this house was to get dressed, pack her belongings, and get out. But the only thing she could do for the time being was to sit down in a kitchen chair and cry loudly. After a while, she dressed, rang for a taxi, and left. Adam went for the van, and we took in the cardboard boxes to the house, and he and I began to pack Emma's clothes and other personal belongings into the boxes. In the morning, we loaded the boxes and her new TV into the van, and I took it to her parents' house. Nobody opened the entrance door when we rang the bell, so we piled the cardboard boxes and the TV against the house while looking at the windows. Both Adam and I were sure we saw somebody watching us behind the curtains. Emma's driving license had been cancelled for speeding, and as I owned her car, we let it remain in the garage. Back at the house, we changed all locks before we left for the next town, which was Adam's current hometown, where he had rented the van. After a short stop at his home, we went skiing for a week in the mountains, where our two friends already were waiting for us in a rented cabin. I'm Matthew Scott, a 34-year-old owner of a small but rather profitable factory specializing in making patented high-quality steel clips sold to customers in 14 countries. It was my uncle who invented and built the automatic multi-operation machine, the only one of its kind, which makes them. When he retired, he sold it to me for a fair price. A single mother working part-time and I were the only employees. Once again, I had had a crushed relationship. I sent Emma a text message and suggested we meet to share some other things in our home. When I got back from my vacation, Adam, me, and the two other friends whom we joined at our vacation used to be lucky with horses. We put some money on weekly horse betting every week, and so far, we had gone up each year. Weekly horse betting is a very popular and very big game. The simple rule is to pick out the winners in 7 trotting races. 7 winners in a bet can give anything between $15 million depending on the number of unexpected high-odds winners in the races and far less prizes for bets with 4, 6, and 5 winners. Of course, to pick out 7 winners in 7 races would be a genuine mission impossible if it hadn't been for the very low price equal to $1 a bet. Most people used to pick out a single winner in 2 of the races and have the other 5 races covered with several horses in each race. Our gang usually gambled for amounts equal to $25 to $30 a week, which gave us a system with 1,500 to 2,000 bets. If I could be regarded as lucky with horses, it was quite the opposite with girlfriends. Usually, it was easy for me both to get them and get rid of them. The girl before Emma was a real beauty, tall, slim, and naturally blonde, but unfortunately, she fit into the description, stupid blonde. Many guys in town regarded me as a fool when I dumped her, but I found it impossible to be with a woman who never did anything at all at home and spent everything she earned on clothes, hair, and makeup equipment. Though I got some money from horse betting and took a fair salary from my company, which gave me a good living for an average guy, I was too poor to afford an expensive trophy girl like her, especially after her interest in sex began to be limited to quickies. We parted without quarrel, and she almost immediately met a wealthier guy who was happy with the new trophy girlfriend. I met Emma, who was quite different and in many ways a dream girl, during our first 4 years together. Until her company hired Morgan as their new accountant. Morgan is a funny guy in many strange ways. He is the most clever and best-paid tax expert and accountant in this small town, living a good life with a lovely, beautiful wife, 2 nice small kids, and one of the nicest houses in town. He got into serious problems when his wife at last caught him cheating. She kept him sweating for some time before she forgave him after counseling and his promises never to do it again. To keep some pressure on him, she demanded, and he agreed, to give her their expensive house as her private property. Morgan kept his promises and was faithful for almost a year before he was caught again. Now she kicked him out and filed for divorce. After sharing their stocks, bank accounts, and losing the expensive house, Morgan moved in with his mother in her big house. Though he had several discreet affairs while married, now he forgot all scruples. He sold his family car and bought an expensive BMW as a real extender. In this country, we have a global auto register with 3 randomly chosen characters and 3 digits on the plates. Morgan's BMW had a plate that began with RNS. The rumors go that the first time Morgan came to the golf club with his new BMW and began bragging about the car, one of the present members said, "If you're taking that damn extender to Ireland during your next golf trip there, the Scots will be convinced that RNS stands for Real Nasty Sucker." After some laughter, one of the other golfers who obviously didn't like Morgan said, "It means exactly the same thing here too, like we use English words such as swing, hook, green, birdie, eagle, hole-in-one, and several others in golf." Morgan's new English nickname was accepted without any problem among the golfers from that moment. Many club members began to call him Real Nasty Sucker, probably because he had caused a very sad divorce for a nice couple at the club, and his habits of using his wealth and social talents for seducing and screwing other men's wives and girlfriends quickly spread across the town. Morgan didn't like me very much since I had refused to vote for him as chairman in our sailing club, which had left him yelling at me about paying back with interest. Obviously, he saw his possibilities to get 2 flies in one hit when the old accountant at Emma's work retired and Morgan was hired to replace him. Probably, he would have made his attempts on a lovely woman like Emma, whoever she had been married to, but now he didn't see any disadvantages in both getting even with me and screwing the very nice woman I intended to marry in the future. As usual, Morgan did a good job when he immediately saw how old and inefficient their accounting system was and persuaded the owners to purchase new modern computer programs. And assisted Emma to get used to them. Of course, they had lunches together now and then, and as there was nothing strange with that, I hadn't any reason to care about what Emma did at her work or with whom she had her lunch. Then she began to show signs of her increasing interest for Morgan. She told me he did so and so, the price of his Omega, how much he bragged about having won in Milan compared to the peanuts that I, in his opinion, got from the horses, and much more of his bragging. When she began to dress in different ways those days Morgan would come to her work, I had enough and tried to have a friendly talk with her about his earlier known seductions of married women and the consequences it had caused them and what it would do to her if she went too far in her admiration of Morgan. Emma didn't appreciate my kind warnings, not at all. Instead, she became angry as a wasp and accused me of being a jealous nerd who saw ghosts in daylight because I probably envied a successful man like Morgan. I really did my best to get Emma to understand that this real nasty sucker, Morgan, most of all wanted to get even with me because, in his opinion, I had seriously humiliated him at the Marina Club. I told her that he was a notorious womanizer slowly working for his chance to get into her panties, and when he had done that, she would be out of my life and probably even out of Morgan's because his only interest was the seduction, not any relationship with screwed women, as he used to name his used prey. Nothing happened in that matter before the yearly hiking trip in the mountains. Morgan had been away to see the national hockey team playing a match in our county capital, and several drinks later at the hotel bar after the match, he had bragged about getting a creep's lovely wife very hot. When the creep went skiing in the mountains, he would spend the nights with that lovely wife. Though the admirers had promised to keep quiet, one of them had told his wife, who told her sister, who told her fellow worker, who told her husband, who happened to be one of my weekly horse betting friends. He knew about Morgan's increasing interest in Emma and told me so we could make our plans to take care of that problem. My plan had been simple before going on vacation. I fixed the garage doors so they could not be opened from any side. Southwest Morgan had to park his BMW visible on my driveway. On my way to the north, I would make a stop at Adam's house for a couple of days if necessary while waiting for information from a friend about a black BMW on my driveway. We had rented a Ford Transit van and bought cardboard boxes and been ready to go when we got the expected message. Adam had taken many pictures during the debacle at my house, some of them very good. He was even a very skilled Photoshop user and couldn't resist the temptation to fix Morgan's tool to a very tiny size in the pictures. I sent Emma a color picture in A4 size of her and Morgan naked in the bed after I dragged away the comforter. I wrote on the backside, "Hopefully this picture of you and the men in your dreams can replace the wedding picture I never got a chance to take and give you. I have never pretended to be a nice guy and jolly good fellow because it's okay for me to be an average man with some shortcomings and some advantages." A short time after my debacle with Morgan, I managed to hear the whispers behind my back that said, "There goes the chicken who got his girlfriend screwed by Morgan." The rumors say that my friends had felt sorry for me, worried for my health, and decided that Morgan needed a real lesson. Obviously, they knew that most color printers leave a small invisible ID on the picture and can be traced, so some of them bought a stolen printer during his visit to the Capitol. Then, some of them had written and printed a leaflet with a picture of Morgan naked in the snow, with Morgan's accounting company's logotype with phone and fax numbers over the picture. Below the picture was a text, "New extended service." Underneath, they had written, "As a real Nordic Viking, I proudly want to announce that I will be serving your female employees with all kinds of male escort service for personal pleasures. References on request." Of course, while making those leaflets, they had never worked without rubber gloves or licked any stamps. When the printing was ready, the USB drive and the printer were to be dumped in one of the old, water-filled deep mining pits in the forest, exactly as the authors had planned. The leaflet caused the expected attention and consequences. Morgan went to the police and accused me. His lawyer sued me for libeling Morgan, and I sued Morgan for accusing me. Both Emma and her father rang me. She only cried, and he threatened to beat me. Several of my friends and even several of my customers accused me of spreading it, though I denied all knowledge of that leaflet. Even one of my best friends told me I had gone too far in my vendetta with Morgan and cancelled our monthly chess games. A policeman rang and asked me if I knew anything about the Morgan leaflet, and I told them the truth, that I had received one by mail at my company, but I had no female employees who could be interested in his services, so I had thrown it in the wastebasket. The rumors in town said that Morgan had been furious and thrown things at his office when he received a letter from the police that said, "Your case is removed from the cause list because no conclusive evidence of crime has been found." He complained to the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Judiciary and Civil Administration, who only replied with a short standard letter that no valid reason for a complaint was found. Once again, Morgan had been loudly screaming and swearing about our legal system. The gossip said that Morgan had sworn to pay me back with interest, so I had hired a security company to keep an eye on my properties. One of their night patrols had succeeded in catching a man throwing a stone through a window. That fit me perfectly because the man was one of Morgan's employees. Then, Emma found out that she was pregnant and decided to keep the baby, probably in some kind of hope that I would take her back. I didn't, and refused to sign any papers or pay anything at all before a DNA test. When the authorities tried to push me into agreeing to be the father, I told them they'd better ask Morgan, who had sex with her after me. While my vengeance with Morgan went on as planned, I wasn't very successful with women for the time being. At my age of 34, the number of available single women in the right age group was a bit limited in my small town. The main disadvantage in a small town is that everyone knows everyone and their backgrounds. It is not funny to be with a girl when knowing all about her background and if she's been an easy lay in her younger days. I did, like many others, try my luck online. My first 3 dates were real fiascos in different ways. The worst one was 36, but had used a photo that was at least 10 years old. Another was married and demanded that her husband be allowed to watch if we had sex. The next time we met, we didn't do that, because there was no next time. The third was a very handsome 27-year-old redhead, but she had too many problems, obviously many of them economic, which she expected me to solve. I didn't. Then I met Nora. She was great in many ways except for one big problem: she had a weird dog, which was the main reason for her boyfriend dumping her. I liked dogs and had never had any problem with any dog until I met Nora and her dog. I really did my best to befriend that animal, but without any hint of success, and as she refused to get rid of it, we gave up our attempts to be a couple. I had to confess that the dog was the winner. When Morgan heard about Nora, her dog, and me, he sent her a dog collar with a message saying that it would be useful now when she had two mad dogs. To my great surprise, Morgan's ex-wife, Sophia, rang me about the Marina Club's annual summer ball and asked me if I had a lady or if I could escort her. A membership in the Marina Club is both more difficult to get and more expensive than a membership in the local golf club. The simple reason is that there are no exact limits for the number of members in a golf club, but in the Marina Club, the number of members is limited to the number of spaces for their boats. During a short meeting, Morgan's ex and I agreed to go together to the ball, but without any further intentions. The simple reason why I hadn't voted for Morgan as chairman was that before he was elected, he had accepted bribes for giving memberships to some of his cohorts, though the waiting list for membership was several years long. Exactly as expected, the ball was a great event, with many photos in our local newspaper. One big color photo of Sophia and me outside the ballroom caused much gossip in town. The whole town knew that Morgan wasn't looking very happy when he found out whom I was escorting. One sunny day, something happened that gave us local single men a great challenge. Lily Roberts, a very beautiful, easygoing 30-year-old nurse who had been living in the country capital since she went to nurse school 12 years ago, had gotten a job, met her husband, and settled down there. Her happiness had lasted until the day when she had forgotten something at home and went there, finding her husband with his 22-year-old secretary in their marital bed. She divorced him, and now she was back in our town again with her 2-year-old son. Her brother and I had been classmates at school, so I knew him rather well. When Adama and her brother met me at the supermarket's cafeteria, we had a pleasant small talk. Adama's brother joked that we two divorcees ought to have a date. I replied that it was a good idea and suggested to Adama that Thursday we take a trip to a big zoo park together with her little boy. She told me that she was busy elsewhere that weekend but would be happy to go with me the next Thursday. We even decided to meet Thursday evening to talk about the trip. I really looked forward to meeting Adama, and we met at a cafe just as we had agreed. Everything was fine until she told me what she had done during the last weekend. She had seen a musical at our capital, had a dinner at one of the best restaurants there, and spent the night at Sharon. I asked who was the happy guy, and she replied, Lucas Morgan. Is he a friend of yours? What could I say? Of all available single men, she had chosen to date the worst creep, Morgan, who had really done his best to impress her. The musical had been sold out for many months, so the tickets must have cost him a fortune on the black market. Though my own date now sounded like a cheap budget alternative compared to his, I decided to continue my own plans and not care about Morgan. So, I replied, I know him rather well, but I wouldn't be honest if I called him a friend. She didn't ask me more about him, and I doubted it would be of any advantage for me to say anything negative about him at that moment. Instead, we talked about our trip. Both Adama and her son, James, were in a good mood on Thursday morning when I picked them up at her parents' house. Adama must have told him about the animals because he talked a lot about them during the drive to the zoo park. During our walk around the park, we had a coffee break at a cafe where we got a table next to a couple with a boy the same age as James, and they began to play and have fun together. When we walked into the restaurant for lunch, the family we met at the cafe was already sitting there and waved us to their table. We joined them, and now even we adults began talking with each other. Most visitors walked through the large park via a suggested path, and the Spinsons and we decided to walk together through the remaining area we hadn't seen yet. The small boys had fun together during our walk. Sophia Thompson told Adama that they were living in a small village without any other small boys in their son's age. Then she asked Adama, I would be glad if you, your husband, and James could come to see us during a weekend so the kids can play together. We have a small guest house on the lawn near our house. Adama's reply caused confused looks in their faces when she replied, I regret to say that my husband and I have filed for divorce and can't do anything together for the time being. My friend, Matthew, here is not involved in my divorce. My husband caused it, and had his secretary to assist him. Mia replied with a laugh, I thought you and Matthew were newlyweds. You look so happy together. I said, I can only hope that we will be that someday. Daniel said, I'm sure Adama won't say no thanks to a nice guy like you. What about the weekend? Mia suggested, it would be perfect for me, so I replied, it would be a great pleasure. What do you say, Adama? She smiled and said, many thanks for your kind invitation. Of course, we will accept it. Wow, one date, and she's ready to jump into bed with him. That seems awfully quick, one of my friends said. One more weekend booked with Adama. The family theme was okay for me. During our drive back, we agreed that Mia, Daniel, and Oliver were a nice family, and both of us expected it to be a pleasant weekend. Then, Adama told me that Lucas had invited her to go with him to Liverpool in England to see a football match with Liverpool United and for some shopping, and she had accepted. Morgan and some friends of his had rented a private plane because one of his friends who had the flight certificate needed flight time. I didn't comment on that. Morgan didn't save any efforts to outshine me in this competition, which would not be difficult even with their second date. Of course, what was a barbecue with friends and a night in a small guest house in a small village compared with a flight in a private plane to England and a high-class hotel there? Morgan was sure that he could impress Adama and win her with his expensive dates, but I'm thinking that she feels much more comfortable together with James, our new friends, and me. When we planned our date, Adama and I even agreed to have dinner at my house when we were back in our hometown. I had prepared most of the food in advance and did the rest of the cooking while Adama got James ready for the night. The dinner was rather romantic with good wine, candlelight, and soft music. We talked of many things, except Morgan, until Adama said, I hope you will understand that sex is out of the question for me until my divorce is final. Lucas and I had a little quarrel about it when I refused to share a room with him during the last weekend, but I'm sure he knows better. For our next date? I asked. I understand, she replied, I'm sure you do. It was so sweet of you to tell Mia that you wanted to be newlywed with me. That's true, I said, there's something very special about you. I'm only a divorcee with a kid. James is a great kid, and he has a great mom. I really like both of you. Your ex must have been crazy when he messed up with you. James likes you too. I'm glad for that. Glad to hear that. And I would be twice as glad if even his pretty mom would like me. Of course, I do. Very much indeed, she said, smiling. After some further talking about other subjects, she asked, why did you and Emma split up? I caught her cheating, I replied. Any plans to forgive her? She asked. No, it was too humiliating. She did it after we had been talking about wedding, honeymoon in Bali, and children. Bali. It sounds exotic. Not only Bali. We even talked about Dubai, the Patagonia, and the New Zealand South Island because both of us wanted to go there. Now it is written in the stars, if somebody wants to marry me, and if she is interested in that trip. She gave me a bright smile, laughed, and said, I would like to go to Bali. Marry me, and we are on the road. She continued laughing and said, it's a temptation, but I'm already married for the time being. She slept in my spare room, and during breakfast, we decided to spend even the Saturday together at my house. It was a pleasant day. We played with James, went out for lunch, and took a long walk. We had no date booked during the next week. Adama had a date with Morgan on Monday, and then they would fly to Liverpool on Thursday morning and be back home on Saturday. Therefore, I had a real surprise when she rang my doorbell about 8 on Monday evening. It wasn't difficult to see that she was very angry for some reason. I asked her to come in, and she sat down at the kitchen table and told me, I have some questions for you and want to hear the truth. Lie to me, and you can forget me. I asked her, what's the matter? She replied, I've been honest with you so far, and of course, I'll continue to tell you the truth. Lucas says that you used to call him real nasty sucker behind his back, and now even several other people have started using that awful nickname. Is that true? No, of course not, I said. That's not a nickname. But real nasty sucker fits perfectly on that creep. Of course, many others and I are using it in front of him. Did he tell you where and why he got that name? She asked. He says that you are calling him that because you envy him and hate him, she said. Of course, I hate him. I hate him very much indeed, but I will never envy him. Did he really send you here to complain about his damn name? I asked. Do you want to know the truth? Adama hesitated for a while before replying. No, he begged me not to do that, which I promised him. But I was so angry and disappointed about you that I couldn't resist finding the truth already this evening. Do you really think you can win my love with such dirty slander? I didn't expect you to be on such a low level, my dear, I said. The truth is that I have avoided saying anything negative to you about your dear friend Morgan, haven't I? I continued. The truth is that there was no need for me to do that because a clever woman like you would sooner or later, hopefully sooner, find out what a creep that man really is. If you have anything to say about Morgan, I want to hear it here and now and only the truth. There is no need for me to tell you any lies about real nasty sucker, because the truth is bad enough, I said. Please let me tell you the whole story before you dump me. Can you promise me that? Yes, I'll do my best. Go on, she said. There is no doubt that Morgan is the best tax expert and accountant in this town and that he has great social skills, but I have a fair reason to hate that man. My first quarrel with him was when I stopped him from becoming the chairman of the Marina Club, because I knew he had already accepted bribes to let his friends sneak past the long waiting list for membership. He swore to pay me back with interest. I paused for a moment before continuing. Of course, he managed to do that. As a rich, generous, verbal, and good-looking guy, he is probably the most successful womanizer in this town with several divorces, even his own, on his personal record. He got his chance when the company hired him, where my ex-common-law wife Emma works. He assisted her with their new accounting system. He began courting her, first in rather innocent ways, and then slowly increased his efforts when he noted her responses. Of course, I did my best to warn her about Morgan and the consequences she would get if she let him go too far with her, but I neither wanted nor could make any attempts to watch her at her job. And when I went skiing for the annual horse betting week in the mountains, he decided to use that great opportunity to get into her panties. But as usual, he couldn't resist the temptation of bragging to his cohorts that his prey was ready to be laid and that he would do that in her damn spouse's bed as soon as I left for vacation. One of them told his wife, who told her sister, who told her fellow worker, who told her husband, who happened to be one of my friends. He knew about Morgan's increasing interest in Emma and told me so we could make our plans to take care of that problem. I decided that if she let that infamous womanizer Morgan visit her in my house when I was away, she had lost my confidence. And if I surprised them in action, she would be out. Due to very bad weather and traffic problems, I came back home too late to catch them in action, but I found both Emma and Morgan sleeping naked in our bed. Adama remained silent. I then handed her the photo of Emma and Morgan naked in bed, taken before I dragged the comforter away. I continued, that was the end for Emma and me, and as usual, Morgan didn't give a damn about Emma after I dumped her. By the way, his pet name, or nickname, Real Nasty Sucker, comes from the license plate on his BMW, which begins with RNS. It was a member at the golf club who gave him that name after Morgan had caused a very tragic divorce for a nice couple there. Looking her straight in the eyes, I continued, I wouldn't be surprised if Morgan even whined about me and his ex-wife Sophia, since it is true that we went together to the Marina Club summer ball, but it was totally innocent, and she asked me to escort her because the ball is for members and their spouses only, and I don't have a spouse. She is not a member, so it was simply a practical solution. I have one more serious thing left to tell you about Emma, Morgan, and me. She is pregnant, and I believe that Morgan is the father. But it will be a case for a DNA test, I finished. Adama looked at me. Did you tell me the truth? Yes, I told you the truth. If you don't believe me, ask people in town. Why haven't you told me anything before? She asked. Because I hoped to have enough with my own advantages, and I wanted to manage to win your love. That's why I chose to date you in simple ways, which gave us a fair chance to really know each other before we went further. Morgan preferred to date you in a different manner, and it is up to you to decide whom you prefer over the other, or if you don't like either of us. After what I told her, I added, I can tell you that I had much more fun during the date with you, and I really look forward to the family weekend with Mia and Daniel, so I'm not dumped yet, am I? Obviously not, Adama replied. I really hope you didn't lie to me. No, I didn't, I said. By the way, you never told me why Morgan began whining about his pet name. We had tea and shrimp sandwiches at the small restaurant besides the bank when two couples came in. One of the women almost yelled loudly, "There is, real nasty sucker, seducing some poor scumsucker's silly wife." Adama said that several of the other guests had laughed loudly, but Morgan hadn't dared to say a word before the couples were seated at the other end of the restaurant. Then, he had begun to accuse me of creating his nickname and spreading nasty lies about him. Adama left, and to my surprise, she was back at my house on Thursday and told me that she had asked a lot of people about Morgan, even his ex-wife Sophia, and all of them had confirmed what I had told her. Morgan had told her that the other guys had refused to take a woman with them on a football trip, so he cancelled their date, and he hadn't been too sorry because he sold her seat in the plane and the match ticket to one of his friends. Adama told me that James was with his dad that weekend and asked if she could spend the weekend with me at my house. Of course, I agreed, and even offered to take her to a nice hotel somewhere, but Adama said she preferred a lazy weekend at home. After a very romantic dinner on Thursday evening, we ended up necking. I got horny as hell and noted that even she was hot, very hot indeed, but she whispered in my ear that she intended to let the sex wait until she was divorced. During all my adult life, I've always remembered what an old man said to me when I was a boy: everything is possible if you try damn hard. I did my very best to keep her hot, and after a long, intensive kiss, I whispered in her ear, "I love you, and I'm dreaming about being your husband, but it's fair that we'll have some practice before our wedding night so everything will be perfect." Then Adama's reply took me completely by surprise when she whispered, "I must agree to that." Thereafter, it was only a matter of a few seconds before both of us were naked in my new bed. Of course, we didn't need any practice because the sex was great from the very beginning. I was convinced without any doubt that it was some of the very best sex I had ever had. Even Adama must have felt the same because she was totally wild until our dual climax, and afterwards, as soon as she was back to normal breathing, she said, "You must marry me. You must do that. Promise me that." I proposed, and she said yes. I was suspicious about how easy I had won against Morgan, but I expected him to keep a low profile until he sooner or later found some excuse to try again with increasing courting of Adama if we became a couple. Then I found out the real reasons why Morgan gave up the competition for Adama. Her ex-husband had been promoted to a real top job and wanted her back as one of the leading ladies in our county. No doubt, Morgan expected to get a good laugh at my expense when she left me, especially now that he had managed to get a new gorgeous girlfriend, a lawyer who would work for 1 year at the local law firm. She could be described as a 9 out of 10. However, Adama, James, and I had a very pleasant weekend together with Mia, Daniel, and their son Oliver. Adama and I even got in some quickies while James slept. The next week was a difficult time for me because Adama was going to see her ex during the weekend and discuss the possibilities of canceling the ongoing divorce and going on with their marriage to give James a fair chance to grow up with both of his real parents. I kept a low profile and told her that it was her own decision. Morgan had sent her a nice card wishing her and her husband good luck, but Adama said that she had sent it back to him with a comment that suggested he put it up in the place advised by his pet name. Obviously, she didn't like him very much any longer, probably because he had dumped her when he cancelled their England date. Adama left early on Thursday morning. She gave me a hug and was gone, probably forever. I had a feeling that she really wanted to save her marriage, but I couldn't blame her. We had agreed that she wouldn't contact me before she was back, either to collect her belongings or to stay forever with me. It was a long, sad day for me. My friends from the horse betting group showed up after lunch so we could follow our gambling on one of the commercial TV channels. Though we had all 7 races right and won a fair amount equal to around £20,000 sterling, I couldn't show any happiness at all, which made my friends seriously worried. They had seen me go further after a number of crushed relationships before, but they had never seen me so wrecked, not even after my separation from Emma. Adam said what all of us knew: "You really love this woman with all your heart." I wasn't in any mood to go out celebrating, so we ordered Chinese food and stayed at my house. About 10 in the evening, all of us were really surprised when Adama came back with a big black eye. After she had told me that she intended to keep her part of our wedding plans, and after she and I had hugged and kissed for several minutes, she told us that it was her ex who had hit her. After my friends had left us, Adama told me everything about the meeting with her ex. When they met, he had taken her on a tour of his new office and bragged about all-inclusive benefits. Then he had taken her to a big, old house in one of the best-regarded, expensive areas with a nice view over the local lake. The house was for sale, and the present owner had agreed to show it to them. Adama didn't like the old area because there were no other kids of James's age. She even disliked the house, it was too big for their needs and in need of much maintenance. When she had told her ex about her doubts, he only said that she could work part-time and use the remaining time to assist the maintenance people. He had left an offer with the broker, and if it were accepted, the house would be his, already his. His selfish choice of a house that Adama didn't want to live in had put her in a very negative mood against the whole idea of forgiving him and continuing their marriage. When she asked him about the price and monthly expenses for it, he had told her that it wouldn't cost her anything at all because he intended to keep it as a private investment. After the house tour, her ex had told her about his plans for the evening. He had rented a room and booked a dinner at the best hotel in town and suggested they go to the room for some rest before dinner. Adama had refused to do that and told him that she had an appointment with a friend. She hadn't, but now she knew for sure that she didn't love him any longer and had no interest in any hotel room sex before dinner. When they met for dinner, he had immediately asked her if she had met a new man. She said, "Yes, I have, and today I've been convinced that he is my love. There's no possibility of repairing our marriage because you and I have drifted too far apart. Let's be happy for all the good times we had together, part as friends, and go forward in our new lives." He hadn't agreed, obviously. He had been drinking too much before the dinner and now showed his very bad temper, beginning to call her names in a loud voice. When she had left the table, he had followed her to the parking lot, where he hit her. But he was interrupted by a man who had seen it and rushed to her assistance. "Adama, James, and I had a good family life in my house." Her ex must have regretted his bad behavior very much because he gave her a fair settlement for their divorce and offered to let me adopt James. Adama and he agreed about their divorce, and then Adama, he, and I met, and all three of us agreed that Adama and James living as a family with me would be the best solution for James. Adama, James, and I were living together as a happy family. Morgan hadn't bothered us with any tricks since he met his handsome lawyer girlfriend. We had a typical small-town life until Emma gave birth to her baby boy. I refused to sign any papers, and the DNA gave me the proof that I wasn't the father. Then we got the great surprise when rumors of Morgan's DNA test got out in town, the baby wasn't his. After a while, the social welfare authorities got Emma to confess she had had an affair with a married fellow worker, whose wife took their 2 children and immediately left him. To my great surprise, Morgan's lawyer girlfriend invited me to lunch. She was a really classy and bright-minded lady. After some polite small talk, she went straight to her errand and told me that she had cancelled Morgan's case against me, so it was up to me if I would drop my case against him, which I promised her I would do. Though she didn't expect Morgan and me to be friends, she wanted us to behave like adults and forget our silly vendetta. In her opinion, I had gotten a fair revenge when Morgan had let me win the competition for Adama. I told her, "He's higher up than I am, and I can hardly believe he feels like a loser." She smiled and said, "Do you envy Lucas and want to change Adama for me?" I replied with a smile, "I really admire you, but I must say no thanks, because I really love Adama." She promised me that Morgan would keep his mouth shut about Emma's baby. I had to agree with her that, in some strange way, he had done me a favor when Emma's earlier cheating was brought out to my knowledge. We parted with a hug, and it was a great benefit for all of us to have put a stop to the vendetta between Morgan and me. During a vacation at the Spanish island of Malta, together with our very good friends, the Spinson family, whom we met during our first date at the zoo, Adama and I married at the Mediterranean Chapel in San Sebastian. After a number of failures, I had gotten a loving wife. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Did the protagonist go too far? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.